Hello, and welcome back to GDR Today. I'm your host, and I'm so glad you've chosen to spend some of your valuable time with us here. I want to start today by asking you a question. Have you ever had one of those days, or maybe it's more like a series of weeks or months, where you look at your own life and the world around you, and a quiet but persistent thought bubbles up, something is off? It's not a dramatic feeling, it's not a crisis, it's more like a low-grade hum of dissonance. You're doing all the things you're supposed to do, you're going to work, you're paying your bills, you're keeping up with friends, maybe you're raising a family. You're checking all the boxes of a normal American life, and yet it feels like you're trying to walk through water. The simple act of running errands, of going to a crowded Target on a Saturday, feels like preparing for a battle. The thought of making small talk at a neighborhood barbecue requires a level of energy you just don't seem to have anymore. You scroll through Instagram, seeing picture after picture of curated happiness, friends on vacation in Bali, former colleagues announcing their big promotion on LinkedIn, picture-perfect families at a pumpkin patch, and instead of feeling inspired, you just feel tired, exhausted. And you start to wonder, is there something wrong with me? Have I lost my drive? Am I just not cut out for this? This is a quiet epidemic of our time. This feeling of profound exhaustion with the very fabric of everyday existence. And the story we're usually told, the one we tell ourselves, is that the problem lies within us. We're told we need better time management, we need to practice more self-care, maybe we need a new productivity app or a different 5-year plan. We assume we are the ones who are broken. But today, I want to propose a different idea, a radical one perhaps, but one I believe holds a deep and resonant truth. What if you can't stand normal life anymore, not because you've changed for the worse, but because the world has drifted too far from what is real, from what is human? What if that feeling of exhaustion isn't a sign of your failure, but a sign that your internal compass is working perfectly, and it's screaming at you that the direction society is headed is fundamentally wrong? That's what we're going to explore today. We're going to unpack this feeling not as a pathology, but as an awakening. Let's first be honest about the two sides of this internal debate, because I know most of you have had it. On one side, there's the voice of self-criticism. This voice is loud, and it's often amplified by our culture. It's the voice that says you're just not trying hard enough. It looks at the colleague who seems to effortlessly juggle a demanding job, a side hustle, marathon training, and a vibrant social life, and it asks, why can't you be more like them? This is the voice of the American hustle culture, the rise and grind mentality that has convinced us that exhaustion is a status symbol, and that if you aren't constantly striving for more, you are, by definition, falling behind. It tells us that our discontent is a personal failing, a lack of grit or resilience. When we feel overwhelmed by the 24/7 news cycle, this voice tells us we're being too sensitive. When we feel lonely, despite having hundreds of connections online, this voice suggests we're being antisocial. It's a powerful narrative because it places all the responsibility, and therefore all the blame, squarely on our shoulders. But then there's the other side, a quieter voice, a deeper intuition. It's the part of you that remembers something different, or at least senses that something different should be possible. This voice doesn't speak in the language of productivity hacks or 5-year plans. It speaks in the language of feeling. It's the feeling of genuine peace you experience on a quiet hike in the woods, away from cell service. It's the rare, profound connection you feel in a conversation that goes beyond small talk, where someone actually listens. It's the simple, uncomplicated joy of watching a sunset or savoring a cup of coffee before the rest of the house wakes up. This voice whispers that maybe, just maybe, the goal of life isn't to accumulate more, to do more, to be more. Maybe the goal is something else entirely. It suggests that the system itself, the economic pressures, the social expectations, the technological fire hose of information, is fundamentally out of alignment with our deepest human needs. It's the voice that says, "You're not broken, the machine is." For years, many of us have been caught in the crossfire between these two narratives. We try to hustle harder, to keep up, but our soul feels more and more depleted. We feel this deep, unnamed homesickness, but we can't figure out what home we're even missing. The central conflict, the one that causes so much anxiety, is this. We are trying to solve a systemic, environmental problem with individual, personal solutions. And it's not working. It can't work. You can't meditate your way out of a culture that is fundamentally designed to keep you anxious and distracted. This is where the conversation usually hits a wall. This is the point where the great, practical American mind raises its hand and says, "Okay, I get it. This all sounds very nice. The world is a mess, hustle culture is toxic, social media is shallow. But what am I supposed to do about it? I have a mortgage to pay. I have student loans that aren't going to disappear. I have children who need to be fed and clothed. I can't just check out, sell all my possessions, and go live in a cabin in Vermont. It's completely unrealistic." And this is, without a doubt, the most important and valid counterargument. It's the question that stops this entire line of thinking in its tracks for most people. Because the alternative seems so impossible, so radical, that we retreat back into the familiar misery of the status quo. The choice appears to be between a soul-crushing but practical reality and a beautiful but completely unattainable fantasy. It feels like an impossible choice, a dead end. But I'm here today to tell you that this is a false choice. The muddle, the confusion, comes from believing that the only two options are either complete assimilation or total escape. This either-or thinking is a trap. It misses the third way, the real way forward. The solution isn't about escaping the world, it's about fundamentally changing your relationship to it. It's about learning to be in the world, but not of it. This isn't about changing your address, it's about changing your frequency. Let me use a metaphor. Think of modern life as a radio station that's playing non-stop static, interspersed with frantic, anxiety-inducing commercials and snippets of bad news. For a long time, we've all been told that our job is to learn how to listen to this station more effectively. We're given better headphones, taught techniques to filter the noise, and told to just get used to the sound. But your soul knows that this isn't music. It's just noise. The feeling of being off is you finally admitting to yourself that the station is unlistenable. The answer then is not to smash the radio. You still need the radio, perhaps for essential weather alerts or traffic updates. The answer is to learn how to tune the dial. It's to discover that there are other frequencies available, quieter, clearer, more harmonious ones. Your job is not to run away from the radio, but to stop letting the status-filled station be the soundtrack to your entire life. You start to intentionally tune in to a different frequency, even if it's just for a few minutes a day at first. You begin to hold that new frequency within yourself, creating a pocket of sanity and clarity right in the middle of the chaos. I've seen this happen in real life, not in grand, dramatic gestures, but in small, deliberate shifts. I have a friend who worked a very prestigious, high-paying job in the tech industry. He had the six-figure salary, the stock options, the beautiful apartment, everything that our culture defines as success. But he was miserable. He was burned out, anxious, and felt a profound sense of emptiness. For years, he thought the problem was him. He just needed to be tougher. But eventually, he realized he was just tuned to the wrong frequency. He didn't quit and run away to a monastery. He took a different job at a smaller, local company. He earns significantly less money, but his work now has a tangible, positive impact on his community. He comes home at 5 o'clock and is actually present with his family. He sleeps through the night. He didn't escape the world. He chose to inhabit a different part of it, to live his life tuned to the frequency of contribution and presence rather than the frequency of status and relentless growth. On a more personal level, I made a decision a few years ago to delete most social media apps from my phone. At first, my brain screamed in protest. I felt a phantom limb, a constant twitch to check for notifications that weren't there. I had a genuine fear of missing out, of becoming irrelevant or disconnected. But after a week or two, something remarkable happened. The noise in my head subsided. I found I had more time, but more importantly, I had more attention. I started noticing the world around me again. I started having longer, more meaningful conversations with my wife. I started reading books again, real books. I didn't move to a cabin, I just turned off one of the loudest sources of static in my life. I changed the frequency. The world was still there, with all its demands and problems, but my capacity to meet it with calm and clarity had grown exponentially. These aren't escapes. They are corrections. They are the actions of people listening to that deep internal compass and reorganizing their outer life to match their inner truth. They are choosing signal over noise, depth over breadth, and presence over productivity. And this brings us to the most important part of our conversation. How do we actually do this? How do we begin to tune to that clearer frequency in our own lives, right now, wherever we are? It starts with small, intentional acts of rebellion against the tyranny of the urgent. First, you must become the ruthless curator of your information diet. Our brains were not designed to process the sheer volume of information, opinion, and outrage that is funneled to us every single day. Most of it isn't even information. It's engineered stimulus designed to capture your attention and provoke an emotional response. So you must choose. Turn off the notifications on your phone, all of them if you can. Your phone should be a tool you use, not a master that summons you. Unfollow accounts that make you feel anxious, angry, or inadequate. You have no moral obligation to stay informed about every single crisis happening in real time across the globe. It doesn't make you a better person, it just burns out your nervous system, leaving you with less energy for the people and problems right in front of you, the ones you can actually do something about. Choose 1 or 2 reliable sources for news and check them once a day or even once a week. You will not be less informed, you will be more clearly informed. Second, you must intentionally create pockets of stillness in your day. Our culture has a phobia of empty space, of silence. If there's a spare moment, we are conditioned to fill it with a podcast, with music, with scrolling. You have to fight this impulse. This is about scheduling time to do nothing. It might be the first 10 minutes of your morning, where you sit with a cup of coffee and just look out the window. No phone, no TV, no input. It might be taking a walk on your lunch break without headphones. At first, this stillness will feel uncomfortable. Your mind will race. You'll feel bored. That's the withdrawal. But if you stick with it, that space becomes a sanctuary. It becomes the place where you can finally hear your own thoughts, your own intuition, that quiet voice you've been drowning out for years. This isn't about meditation necessarily. It's simply about creating a space free from external input. It's giving your system a chance to recalibrate. Third, you must actively redefine and cultivate real community. One of the greatest paradoxes of our hyper-connected age is epidemic loneliness. We have more friends than ever, but fewer people we can call in a real crisis. The frequency of real human connection is slow, messy, and requires vulnerability. It can't be replicated in comment sections or with emojis. So, you have to build it brick by brick. This means prioritizing face-to-face interaction. It means choosing one deep conversation with a close friend over a large, loud party full of acquaintances. It could be as simple as starting a weekly dinner with your family, where no phones are allowed at the table. It could be starting a book club or joining a local volunteer group. It means checking in on your elderly neighbor, not with a text, but by knocking on their door. These acts seem small, almost quaint in our fast-paced world, but they are the very bedrock of a meaningful human life. They are the signal, and everything else is noise. And finally, you must learn to practice intentional inefficiency. The religion of our time is productivity. We are taught to life hack everything, to optimize every minute, to find the shortest path from A to B. But a rich life is not an efficient life. The most meaningful experiences are often deeply inefficient. Think about it. Playing with a child is inefficient. Tending a garden is inefficient. Learning to play a musical instrument is inefficient. Having a long, meandering conversation with someone you love is the definition of inefficient. You must reclaim the right to be inefficient. Cook a meal from scratch instead of ordering delivery. Write a thank you note by hand instead of sending an email. Take the scenic route home from work. These acts are a rebellion against the machine-like frequency of modern life. They reintroduce a human rhythm. They are a declaration that your life is not a project to be managed, but a journey to be savored. As you begin to make these small changes, something interesting starts to happen. You don't just feel better, you start to see the world differently. It's like your perception shifts. The things that once seemed so important, the petty office politics, the race to get the latest iPhone, the pressure to have an Instagrammable vacation, start to seem almost absurd. Their power over you diminishes. And the things you used to overlook, the quality of the morning light, the taste of fresh-baked bread, a moment of genuine kindness from a stranger, become sources of profound gratitude and joy. This is what it means to be in the world, but not of it. You are still here, paying your bills and sitting in traffic, but internally, you are anchored to something deeper, something more real. I want to conclude with a final thought. This feeling of alienation and exhaustion that so many of us are experiencing is not the end of the story. I believe it is the beginning. Think of a caterpillar's transformation into a butterfly. From the caterpillar's perspective, the process is a catastrophe. Its entire world, its very body, dissolves into a chaotic primordial soup inside the chrysalis. It is a complete breakdown. It feels like death, but it is not death. It is a necessary disintegration that precedes a radical reorganization. The old form must fall apart before the new, more beautiful form can emerge. I believe we are, both individually and collectively, in that chrysalis moment. The old structures, the old ways of living and thinking are breaking down. And it feels chaotic and frightening because breakdown always is. But it is not necessarily a bad thing. It is clearing the way for something new to be born. Your role in this transformation is not to fight the breakdown. Your role is not to despair over it. Your role is to hold the frequency of what comes next. By cultivating stillness in your life, by nurturing real community, by choosing depth over distraction, you are not just saving yourself. You are becoming a carrier of the blueprint for a more human future. You are creating a small pocket of sanity, a microculture of peace and presence in an insane world. And these small pockets, these little ecosystems of sanity, are where the future is being built. When enough people start doing this, the world changes. It changes not with a bang, but with a quiet shift in frequency, a collective tuning in to a more harmonious way of being. So, if you feel like you're out of step with the world, I want you to consider that you might not be falling behind. You might just be ahead of the curve. That ache in your soul is not a weakness. It is a calling. It's the evidence that you were made for something better, something truer. You are not losing your mind. You are coming to your senses. You're not falling apart. You're falling into place. If these ideas have resonated with you today, if you felt that same sense of being out of sync with the world, I would love to hear from you. Share your own experiences in the comments section below. How are you navigating this? What small steps are you taking to tune in to a different frequency? Your story could be the one that lets someone else know they are not alone in feeling this way. And if this conversation has brought you any clarity or peace, please consider hitting the like button. It's a small act, but it helps these ideas reach more people who might be struggling with the very same feelings. Someone right now is sitting alone thinking there's something wrong with them. And this message could be the lifeline that helps them see things differently. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to GDR today so we can continue to have these kinds of conversations. Conversations about how to live with depth in a shallow world, how to stay awake when so many are sleepwalking, and how to build something beautiful and real in the midst of the breakdown. Thank you for being here. You are not crazy. You are not broken. You are awake. And the world desperately needs people who are awake.